Today's guest is Mike Welch, director of the 3M Open. I'm lucky enough to get to talk to him today and get some insights on the tournament as well as some future plans that they have for upcoming events. I also get to hear some great stories from him and experiences throughout him being director at the 3M Open. I'm excited to get to know him just as you will, so get ready for a great episode. Welcome back to another episode on the NSN show. I'm your host, Isaiah Nokken, and I have a special guest here today, tournament director of the 3M Open, Mike Welch. Mike, how are you doing?
Good, man. How you doing, Isaiah?
Good to have you on the podcast. Is this one of your firsts?
For you, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love to do this. I mean, it's great to just talk about the 3M Open and sort of what it brings to the community. So excited to be here, man.
For sure. So you started before the 3M with the Timberwolves. You kind of want to talk about that and how that worked out?
I mean, sports has always been a love for me. I played baseball in high school and college, a little bit of hoops before I learned that I wasn't going to get any taller. So I knew it was going to be a tough sport for me. I've always loved golf. And so when we had our first child, I lived in Milwaukee. My wife is from this area, Elk River, Zimmerman area, and she wanted to move back home. She had a little bit larger family than me, so we had more help for the boys. And I always said that if I could do sales and sports together, that would be like the perfect job, right? Because I love sales and I love sports. And a job with the Timberwolves opened up. I was a Bucks season ticket holder and found out about it, went up and interviewed and got the job. Moved here in 2006 and spent 13 years there. I would say that my time with the Timberwolves and Lynx, because we also sold for the WNBA team, was one that helped shape me. I would never take it back. We didn't have a lot of success on the Timberwolves side. In 13 years, I saw 2 home playoff games, and those were the Jimmy Butler years, if you can remember those. But on the Lynx side, we won 4 WNBA championships, and that was really cool to be part of that. Some special memories there, and my job there was corporate partnerships. So what we did is we sold all the advertising, whether it was in arena, whether it was on the radio, whether it was in social media or any type of promotion on court. That was what we did. So we helped to solve for companies' objectives to amplify their brand in arena, to help bring them to life and activate them to let our fans know more about them. So it was awesome, man, and did that for 13 years from 06 to 19, and had a great time with it.
And did you get any player connections while you were there on Lynx side and Timberwolves side?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I've learned in golf is that it's much different than basketball. These guys and gals are the most recognizable people in the world, right? I mean, if you have LeBron James walking down the street, not only are you going to know him because he's LeBron James, but he's 6'8". He's huge. Like, he just doesn't look like you or I, right? With all due respect. So when you see him, you know who he is. They don't wear helmets. They don't wear baseball caps. They wear tank top jerseys, so they're recognizable by their tattoos or what have you. So they literally are the most recognizable athletes in the world. And so I share that because it actually, I think, makes it a little bit harder for them to be as upfront because they're constantly getting bombarded wherever they go, right? When they go out to dinner, everybody knows who they are, and everybody's going to ask them for their autograph while they're out to dinner. With all due respect to hockey players, even offensive linemen for football players, people aren't going to know who they are unless they're really, really good, right? So I think that through the years, they've just constantly been bombarded, and so the interaction between business side and basketball side isn't as great as you would think it would be. And I don't mean great like just friendly. I mean, just like there's a little bit of a disconnect because they're focused on basketball. We were focused on business, and when we went to them, it was mostly for sponsor stuff. So the personal type relationships didn't really come in that league, and that's okay. That's not to say that they aren't there, because they certainly are there within the organization now and other organizations. But that starts at the top, and it takes a really strong CEO to foster that relationship between basketball and business side, or baseball and business side, whatever sport you're in. And the Timberwolves have that now, and it's really cool to see. Because I'll tell you, people like Ant and Kat and even Mike Conley, I mean, they do a ton of stuff for the community, and they're out there on social. I mean, Ant is one of the most recognizable athletes in the NBA now, and that's awesome to see.
Yeah, and I mean, they got really busy schedules with like stuff going on all the time, and to like try to remember everybody and all that stuff's got to be really hard. So
it is. Well, dude, the travel is crazy. I mean, like, people think that it's super glamorous. But for instance, like they just played in Washington and in Brooklyn, right? The last I think on Wednesday and Thursday night. So basically, what they do is they'll get into Washington on Tuesday afternoon, and they'll go through a practice, go to sleep Tuesday night, wake up for Wednesday morning, shoot around, play that night, get on a plane and fly to Brooklyn, land probably at 1 a.m., have to go to bed, wake up the next morning, shoot around, play the game, fly home, practice, and then they have a game tonight. And so, I mean, yes, it's a charter plane. Yes, they're staying in great hotels, but the travel is a grind, man. It's 41 away games. And so just think about, you come home and now the business side wants you to do 3 appearances somewhere, right? And you're like, man, I just want to sleep, right? So I think that there is a really good relationship there where we try to be cognizant of what they're trying to do, because they're getting paid to play basketball and play it at a high level. And the business side's trying to bridge that gap and make that connection with the community.
Yeah, and I think it's crazy that, like, I know they're pros, but that they can kind of filter out all those things, and knowing they got to play a game later, and all the people that they talk to, it's just a crazy, like, I don't know, thing for them. So
yeah, and they do it at a high level, right? I mean, you've been to Timberwolves game. The athleticism, man. I mean, like, it is just off the charts, and to answer that bell every night is really cool.
For sure. And I bet, too, for the 3M, it's a lot more different with the player interactions, because I saw you the last couple of years talking to a lot of the guys, and especially Tony Finau.
Yeah, I mean, way different. I mean, I was just at the Amex in La Quinta, spent a lot of time with your boy JT Poston and Aaron on the range and talking to them, and it's just different, right? I mean, with all due respect to what they're doing, when they're practicing I was there on a Wednesday, they just probably had played a pro-am, getting ready for the next day. They might be on the range for an hour or two, and they can take time to talk in between shots. I mean, JT was kind of grinding, but Aaron was chatting. I would say that pace of golf and the ability to work on your game and do it, on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to get ready for Thursday through Sunday offers more opportunity for you to do other things like that, chat with a tournament director, do something in the community, do something for a corporate sponsor, because you know that you have other time to practice. You're already there. You're not traveling from game to game to game. And yeah, I mean, I've had a really enjoyable experience with most of the PGA Tour players. I think that they recognize that without these tournaments, without staff that put on the tournaments, that they don't get a chance to win, $1.4 million of prize money if they win our tournament. And I think they're super grateful for that. They understand that a lot of that comes from title partners. And so, when we have an ask for 3M, for them to visit their corporate tent or to visit their campus or whatever that might be, they understand that if it can work for them, they're going to make it work, because they know that that's where the majority of the purses and the prize money comes from. So they've been great about it, and I've had some awesome interactions with them.
And for your first year, how was that, like, trying to get used to everything? And, now you're obviously used to all of it, but how did you kind of get used to it? Were there people helping you and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was actually a blessing, man. My first year was the COVID year. So I came in September of 2019, and, we're working towards the tournament in 2020, and then February of 2020 happens and the world shuts down. And for a moment there, we didn't know if we were going to have a tournament. I believe the first tournament back was the Colonial in May. And so then every tournament after that, if your state allowed it, was going to have a tournament. So we knew that Minnesota was going to let us have a tournament. We just knew that we couldn't have fans. So I was fortunate enough that we went through the whole exercise of putting on a tournament, but we didn't have to, I don't want to say worry, but it's not the right word, but worry about having fans there. So I, as being somebody new to the industry, got a chance to see how a PGA Tour tournament is operated, and how you have to facilitate volunteers and security and player services and caddy services and all of that. And it was such a blessing to be able to just take a step back, not have to deal with corporate partners and fans, and really just see how it operated. So it was so great for me to sort of get my feet wet there. And then when 2021 happened, which was our first year, that's when it really hit me, because it is a lot. I mean, you're trying to facilitate 100,000 people over the course of 6 days. We have 225 corporate partners that we want to make sure every single one of them is happy. And so I particularly leaned on our staff, who was wonderful. The other 10 of them who have had tons of experience prior to the 3M Open, when it was the 3M Championship for the Champions Tour, who was able to just lend their insight and say, hey, this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we deal with it. So in evacuation for weather, right? Like I had no idea how to move 5,000 people, 7,000 people off a course when something happens, and you've been there every year. You know that, I'm going to knock on wood right now. Hopefully it doesn't happen this year, but every year we have some type of evacuation because of weather, right? It's the Minnesota summer. So that, amongst other things, was just stuff that I had to learn and lean on others from. And I mean, we learn something every year. I mean, multiple, 5, 6, 7 things every year, something new happens. And that's the challenge with events, that it's a 6-day event that we plan and sell the other 359 days out of the year. That really is dependent on weather, and only one person knows what the weather's going to be like that week. And so it's crazy when you step back and think about it.
Yeah, it's, you never know what to expect here. The last, I don't know, not this year, but the year before, the rain stuff. And, it's got to be crazy to, try to deal with all that stuff. But how do you like manage like that week? So, starting with like day one, are there like set plans of what you're doing? And then obviously it changes throughout, but like, what's a typical day?
Yeah. I mean, we really lean on Advance Week. So Advance Week is the week before the tournament. So this year it'll be, July 15th to the 21st. That Monday through Sunday, we call Advance Week. And that's where we get everything prepped. So all of our hospitality tents, everything for setup, right? Because when we start the tournament on Monday, and Monday, again, it's not open to the fans, but we start our tournament on Monday, tournament week, and we have a whole calendar of events, Isaiah, from Monday through Sunday that we go through that Saturday before. We'll meet Saturday at probably about 5:30 inside of our offices with our entire staff, our traveling staff, and our intern staff. So there's probably 50 of us there, and we'll get just a ton of pizzas, and we'll sit down for 3 hours, and we basically have a book like that, a document that outlays Monday morning until the Champions Toast inside of 3M's Hospitality Tent on Sunday night, and we'll go through the whole thing to just make sure that, we have everything. It's, what do we need for setup? What do we need for facilitation? Who's picking up the player to come here? It's all in that sort of, we call it the Bible, and it is thick. Our event, this will only be our 6th year, but I would tell you that, I've been to 15 events, and our event runs more side hustles in golf instead of just the golf, but like sponsor events on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday throughout the day. You've been to Golfer All Day, things like that, where, that's unique to golf tournaments. Most golf tournaments just focus on hospitality and the players and just conducting a golf tournament. The Amex that I was just out, they do a wonderful job out there in La Quinta. But it really is hospitality and the golf. There wasn't a ton of sponsor activation going around. They had a beautiful concert, but in our tournament, you'll see anything from 6 to 7 ancillary events going on at one time, Monday through Wednesday. So we try to prepare for that as best as we can leading up to the tournament and Advance Week. And then Advance Week, we are sitting down every day and going through this to make sure that we got that thing buttoned up. But, Tournament Week, we're up at, and at the office by 5:30 and just getting ready for everything. And then, we get out of the office, depending on what we have that night, probably at 9, 10 o'clock. So there's not a ton of sleep, and you pay for it the week after. But, that week, while it's amazing, is a blur. And, you have to prepare for it in advance to make sure that it goes about as smoothly as you possibly can.
Yeah, for sure. And is there any, like, a lot of PGA Tour stuff that they want you to do? Any restrictions that they force on you guys, or is it pretty open to what you guys want to do?
There are certain restrictions. Like, for instance, we can't have any corporate partner inside of a TV visible spot, right? So when you're watching the broadcast on Golf Channel or CBS, we have to make sure that 3M is really the only brand that is visible on TV when you're watching the broadcast. Now, there's going to be some things that get on TV, like you're going to see the Bell Bank Champions Club because maybe an Aaron tee shot on 18. If you remember Camp Champ from 2 years ago, hit that over in the hill, and there's this beautiful photo of him hitting that shot, his approach with Bell Bank Champions Club in the background. Our friends from Bell Bank love that one. But we have to make sure that we have as much partner signage on the non-TV visible side as possible. So that's a restriction. I mean, there's other restrictions that we have as far as like where you can and can't go for most of our staff, right? Most of our staff can't go into the clubhouse or player dining. But I would say that the relationship between the PGA Tour and the host organization, which is what we are, the 3M Open Fund, have an awesome relationship. I mean, we truly do. And they do an awesome job of, once Thursday starts, facilitating the tournament, sort of letting us do our thing Monday through Wednesday with a little bit of advice and coaching and guidance. And then Thursday through Sunday, it becomes a PGA Tour tournament that their officials run. And we're just facilitating everything else, right? Security and corporate partnership, action, all of that. And it's a really good working relationship. So, I wouldn't say that there's a ton of restrictions other than the obvious. And it's a relationship that I think is only getting stronger.
Are there like any players from last year that had any like specific things they wanted compared to other guys, like anything they needed for the tournament that was ready, or are most of the guys kind of similar?
At the course, it's pretty standard. We try to. And I, again, every tournament is awesome in their own right, but I do think that we do a really good job of catering to the players, their families, and the caddies, because we know, number one, we have a tough spot in the schedule, right? We're the week after the British Open, and not everybody's excited about flying from the UK or Scotland over to Minneapolis on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, and getting ready for a tournament. Some of them just simply don't travel well, right? They don't do really well with the time zone difference, and I get it. But I think where the differences come is outside of the golf course, right? If there is a big name player that we know draws fans, and we've helped them identify a location that they want to stay, and worked with that family to get that house or what have you, like we'll do a couple things or some asks that they have that, is above and beyond what we're probably required to do, but we really want to make sure we take good care of them. So when Justin Thomas comes and Cameron Young comes and stays across the street from me, or JT and everybody next door, right? Like we certainly are going to make sure that everybody, has what they need, but there's really not a lot of requests. I mean, again, these folks are independent contractors, right? They don't work for a team. They essentially have their own team. It's them, their caddy, probably like their strength coach, their swing coach, whoever else that is, if they're traveling with them. And it's a small party that, they have one laser focus to do well that week. And they pretty much keep to themselves, honestly. And so, there's no like egregious, ask that's coming to my head when it's, like, hey, what does so-and-so want? I mean, maybe like almond butter instead of peanut butter. I don't know, something crazy like that, but that's probably not you want to hear. I mean, we're trying to do some new things this year for the tournament. We're trying to bring back a concert maybe. And, so when we do stuff like that, there might be some asks like, hey, I need 15 tickets. And I'll be like, oh man, I don't know if I can do that, so, but not yet, man, not yet.
Yeah. And when you were speaking of Justin Thomas, are there any crazy stories? Because obviously he brings in big crowds. But was there anything crazy that you guys had to deal with all those fans and him?
I'd like to be able to sit here and tell you these crazy stories, but I mean, it really isn't. I mean, I would say my craziest story in my career so far is, for the last number of years, we've had that Compass Challenge on Wednesday night, and our first Compass Challenge in 2021, we had Charles Barkley. If you remember when Charles was here, and so Kyle Rudolph, who is a great ambassador to the 3M Open, helped me get Charles. We had 7 of our 8 athletes, celebrities picked for that, and Charles was the 8th. And Kyle's like, man, I'll get you in touch with them. And so Kyle FaceTimed me from Lake Tahoe, the American Century Challenge, I think it's called, where Charles plays. He's like, hey, I'm sitting with Charles. He says he's in, so get in touch with him. Here's his information. Here's his cell. Here's his email. And so this was 2 weeks prior to the 3M Open. And so, we wanted to start marketing it. So I'm like, okay, we're going to market it. So we did all the graphics on Monday morning, got all Charles Barkley stuff ready. I'm texting him, emailing him, calling him all week, no response. So now we're back to the Monday prior to the 3M Open advance week, if you remember, and we still are not getting in touch with him. He finally calls me back on Friday of that week. So the tournament starts Monday that week. Wednesday is when Compass challenges. So this is 5 days before. He goes, hey, good to go. I'll be there Tuesday at 8:30. I said, great. We'll send a car and everything will be ready. So fast forward Tuesday morning. It's 8:45, 9 o'clock. Now remember, the Compass Challenge doesn't start until Wednesday at 6 o'clock. So it's 9 o'clock, and I get a call from Lowe's Hotel downtown, which is where we put him up at. And it's the manager, and he goes, hey, Mr. Welch, Mr. Barkley is here at the hotel, and he's not very happy that there was no car waiting for him. I go, wait a minute, he's here already? And he's like, yeah, he's here. I go, and then I just hit me. I thought he was saying 8:30 p.m. because it didn't go until Wednesday night. So I was like, why would he get in a whole day and a half early? I thought celebrity, get in, get out, right? So he is really mad. I send my poor wife, downtown with a box of super expensive cigars with a note saying, Charles, I'm so sorry. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Call him, text him, no response. I'm like, oh my gosh, this dude hopped on a plane and went back home because he's so mad. 10 o'clock that night, Tuesday night, he goes, hey, send a car for me at 10 a.m. on Wednesday. I'll be good to go. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I send a personal car down to Lowe's Hotel Wednesday, 10 in the morning. He pulls up to the course at 10:30 a.m. I go meet him in the parking lot. He gets out of the car. I get down on one knee. I go, Charles, I am so sorry. He goes, man, don't sweat the small stuff. It's all good. I'm like, you could have told me that 24 hours ago when I was sweating if you left on a flight home. Had an awesome time at the Pro-Am, had an awesome time at the Compass Challenge. Wednesday night, I got video of it. He's in the bar and he holds court and he's says this whole thing like, I do a lot of these. Y'all in Minnesota are great. Thank you for having me. What a wonderful time. And then goes on to pays the entire bar tab for the entire night for the whole place. Wow. So it was really cool. Cool story. It's one that I certainly learned from to ask AM or PM and not just assume. But, and we heard he wants to come back this year, so we're trying to get him to come back this year.
That'd be super cool. Yeah. And like you were saying, I can't imagine, because you guys put out graphics and stuff and we're preparing for that, for him to not show up would be just crazy. So.
He was by far the biggest draw, right? Yeah. And we try to get as many celebrities and athletes as we can to draw that – non-core golf fan, somebody who's just curious about golf but loves seeing celebrities. The middle of summer is tough, but it was great to have him, and we're hopeful that he comes back.
For sure, yeah. And have you had a lot of people or players that you've tried to reach out to that have said no, I don't want to show up, or I got stuff going on?
Yeah, both on the golfer side because of the British Open and as you know, the new system that the PGA Tour has with the FedEx Cup points, why we got Justin Thomas last year and Matsuyama and a few other of those, that's wonderful for a tournament like us where if they're struggling and they need points to get into the top 70, 50, or 30, they're going to play us. But Scotty Scheffler has never been here. John Rahm, before he went over, had never been here. Rory's never been here. We talk to Rory's guys every year, and that's another one just after the British. It's just really tough for him. But, we do think at some point he's going to play us. We just don't know when. So we have a lot of those conversations. We work on that now. That's why I was in La Quinta last week. It's why I'm going to Phoenix for the WM Phoenix Open in a couple weeks to just continue to build a relationship with these players and talk to them to just, again, let them know, hey, when you come here, it might not be ideal in your schedule, but you're not going to have to worry about a thing for you, your caddy, your family, your caddy's family. We take care of all of that stuff, right? We got bounce houses for kids, to make sure that they're having fun. We have activities all week for families if they want. And so, I think that the word is getting out about what kind of tournament we are. It's just now, I've always said this to our staff. The WM Phoenix Open wasn't built in 6 years. They're in year 91 right now, right? The Colonials in year 7. All these tournaments have been going on for years and years and years. We're just in our 6th tournament, and it's really 5 if you think about COVID. So, these things take time to build, and we're doing a great job building them. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get all the players to know about that. And that's what we tell everybody who's been here is like, make sure you tell all your friends about this, and then from an athlete, celebrity standpoint, I think we do a decent job every year, for the Compass Skills Challenge. I think we're going to try to do some different variation of that this year, but we are always trying to get, athletes and celebrities here. Last year with the Stilly Party Deck, I don't know if you got a chance to walk over there, but that was a huge hit, having a DJ there and having celebrities there, doing some things throughout the course of the week that cater to celebrities. So, again, like the actual golfers, it's just showing the value for these athletes and celebrities of why they want to come, and what it's going to do for their brand. For St. Andre Golf last year, when they came and did those 2 vignettes for us, I don't think I'm bold by saying that it helped them. I mean, they started doing other things too because other PGA Tour tournaments saw that they were partnering with us. They've always been really popular in that golf meme, golf bro space, but not really in the actual PGA Tour space. And I think we opened a few doors for them. And so, we're talking to them again this year. We're talking to Bob Does Sports about potentially coming, talking to a few other folks to just, again, get that door open to that crowd that might not necessarily be interested in a PGA Tour tournament, but really is interested in golf and just what's so fun about golf right now, music and fashion and camaraderie. And then that dovetails into becoming a fan of the PGA Tour, more importantly for us, a fan of the 3M Open and having a really good time. That's what it's about. And we need those people to help spread the word for us.
Yeah, and I think those influencers really help as well because, kids now, like my age, that's what we're watching, like on the Instagrams and the TikToks. And, a lot of the influencers would really help, like when you had Josh Mayer over there and all those guys. So, it's a huge, thing to have them. So.
We just had the Solomon Hughes Senior Golf Academy fellowship team come. And so it's 8 high school age kids that are joining this program that's based in golf. Like you learn a lot of golf skills, but there's life skills being taught as well. And so these 8 came to our offices in early January, and we sat down with them to talk about, hey, tell me what was cool about Golf for All Day. Tell me what could be a lot cooler. Tell me, how we get your friends to come to the 3M Open, not only now, but in the future. Like, what do we need to do to make it something that you're going to put on your calendar? Because just frankly, golf's not something you're going to put on your calendar. It's got to be an event. And what we heard from them, just to your point, Isaiah, is like, I want to see more athletes, and I want more one-on-one interaction with them at Golf for All Day. So, for instance, they said, Chet Holmgren and Jalen Suggs, right, being local. Like, if whether they love golf or not, if you get them there, like, I'm going to come there. So, like, it's easy for us to reach out to their reps and say, hey, at the end of July, after Vegas Summer League, can we have you on Tuesday for Golf for All Day? The spirit of this is getting more kiddos that, Jalen grew up where you grew up and look like you more than look like me to come to 3M Open, because we want to open up this fan base to folks that might not have the opportunity to do so. And if it takes somebody like you in the NBA to get them to come here, we're all in. How can we make that happen? Do we, can we donate to your foundation? Like, what do you, in support of? And then, by the way, you're going to have fun. Like, it's a fun time, right? And so getting more athletes like that, but influencers like Josh. We had Alyssa Kesar. She's called New Lady Golfer. She was part of our Compass Skills Challenge last year. Getting more people like that for a day or two to just come to 3M Open, which helps their brand and helps our brand. Last year we had Claire Hogel from Swag, who's got almost 1 million followers, and Claire was like, "This is so cool." She's like, "I never would have expected a PGA golf tournament to be like this." She was out at Stilly Party Deck, and that's exactly what we were talking about. And so we just need more instances like that to help spread the word.
Yeah, and it's got to be fun for them too, because like you were saying, like it's a time for these guys to get away as well, enjoy kind of their, you say, off season and stuff like that for these players like Suggs and Chet. So, but going on my next question, so then I'm assuming for the off season for you guys, then you're just looking to find people going to tournaments, stuff like that.
Yeah, our off season really starts the day after our tournament ends. So August 1-ish or so. There's really 3 phases. The first one is the tear down and just settling up on the tournament, right? Because it takes a couple months, 5 weeks to tear down the build, settle up with vendors, collect any, outstanding invoices from partners, blah, 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 all the boring stuff, right? So we got to clean all that up. And then it's renewal time for all of our corporate partners, because, again, corporate partnerships and Ticket sales are the lifeblood of our tournament. Without those, we don't put on a tournament along with our title partner, right? So renewing those relationships when we can, if we can early, is super important, and it takes up a huge focus of the time from August through November to try to get as many renewals in as possible. And then from a player side, I mean, it really does start when the new calendar year starts. And so myself, and I think this, we have 7 tournaments that we control with ProLink Sports, 3 on the PGA Tour. We do the Wells, Fargo, and the Valspar Championship, and then 4 on the PGA Tour Champions. So we have tournament directors in each of the locations. The tournament director at the Valspar is actually my boss, and she helps with player recruitment along with Hollis, our executive director, and just, again, going to a lot of tournaments, going to for instance, she'll go to the Hero World Challenge Tigers tournament, talk to all the top players about, our 3 tournaments. And so that's an ongoing thing, but it really starts in earnest come January. And so it's really just getting those players, talking to them, getting revenue, and then starting the build and getting that ready for 2024.
Yeah, and you talked about Tiger. Have you guys reached out to him? Anything?
Oh, sure.
Tiger?
Yeah. I mean, that might be a long shot, man. I mean, I think I heard that he wants to play 1 tournament a month this year. That's like his goal. My guess is that he's going to play the British Open the week before us, and maybe not us, right? Yeah. So, I don't know, man. I mean, we'll see. Through the years, there used to be an edict on the PGA Tour that you had to play a different tournament every 4 to 5 years. It was before my time. I think they eliminated that, and certainly now, I think with the way golf is going. But it'd be nice to have that. But I do think that, the tour is trying to help in every respect that they can to get some of these top players, and the difference between a signature event and our event, a full field event, right? I just keep saying to the tour and anybody who will listen, like if these top players would just commit to playing a different tour event, once every 4 years, it would be great for a tournament like ours, because we could get a commitment to 3 or 4 of these top 15, 20 players every year because they're rotating. That'd be huge for us. I mean, it's huge for our market when a Justin Thomas and Cameron Young come. I mean, we saw our ticket sales spike those days that those 2 guys committed, and there's no coincidence there. So I think that would be something that would be helpful for our tournament. I also know that, again, back to my comment that, these guys are independent contractors. They get to pick their own schedule. That's the beauty of being a PGA Tour golfer. I would love some help. And I think, we continue those conversations to see how they go.
Yeah. So do you get a lot of advice and talk to a lot of the other directors from other tournaments throughout the year?
Absolutely. I mean, it is a really tight-knit group. It was like that in the NBA. It's like that here. You learn a lot by going to it as well. When I was at the Amex last week, it was really cool to see a few things that we've been trying to do that they have. We meet once a year down at PGA Tour tournament meetings. They rotate between Florida and California. And so that's 3-4 days of spending really quality time with them and asking questions. Obviously, the last couple have been a little unique because what's happening in the world of golf, that has sort of dominated the conversation more so than just idea sharing and networking and, shooting the breeze around, hey, man, what would you do if you're in my situation for this? Now it's like, the conversation is a little bit different because of what's happened in the world of golf. But, they're always a phone call, email away. There is a ton of idea sharing. There's this thing called the Tournament Advisory Council where there's 8 tournament directors on a council that meets quarterly, and they discuss and bring to life all ideas and then disseminate them back to the tournament directors that we get that information on to just hear what's going on with the PGA Tour, hear what's going on with the Player Advisory Council, which, Tiger and Cantlay and a few others are on, Peter Malnati, who's a great dude. And so, it's good to get that information, and I do think that that's helpful, that there is really good communication between all the tournament directors and the tournaments.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask, what's your handicap? Because I know you're doing all the 3M stuff. Do you get to play a lot and all that?
I play probably more than I would like to, if that sounds crazy. Let's see. I think my handicap is like a 3.8, so I call it a 4. most days I'm a 4 handicap playing to like a 7 or 8. I don't know. There's a couple people that I play with that are 4 handicaps as well that just smoke me. So I don't know how we're all 4s, but yeah, I certainly have gotten better since I've taken this job because leading up to the tournament, you don't play a lot because you're obviously getting ready for the tournament. But if there's somebody that's a big deal you're trying to close or what have you, you're going to go play. But it's really after the tournament when we have those renewal conversations. I've been saying this even when I worked in the NBA and even before that when I worked in just media sales. There's nothing like spending 4 hours on a golf course with a client because you learn so much about their business, about them personally. It just helps foster that relationship. I mean, golf is the greatest connector sport in the world, right? And so there's so much business that gets done on the golf course. And this is what I tell my kids, because they enjoy the game. And I just said, listen, I don't care so much about your score. I know you do, but like what I care about is your ability to have a conversation. Because if you're going to be in a cart and you're going to go golf your hole and then you're going to come back to your cart and be on your phone the entire time, like that defeats the purpose of this sport, right? Like it is to interact with one another and get to know one another on a deeper level. And that's been, I think the greatest thing for me is just to be able to play the game and connect with these brands and these corporate partners. You're just naturally going to get a little bit better because I'm a competitive guy. And so I want to make sure that I'm doing all right. So there's days where I can shoot really well, and then there's days where I can shoot really poorly, and I think every golfer would tell you that. But it has been fun to play quite a bit. I've gotten, the chance and the blessing to play some amazing courses and travel to play them, which is, a really fun part about this job and something that I never take for granted that, I'm kind of living out a dream when it comes to like what you want to do. The old saying is that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in life. And I don't know if I can say that because there's been certain days where I certainly feel like this is work, but, I think about, people like my dad who worked in a machine shop for 45 years and I think he liked his job, but, I'm not sure if he loved his job. Right. And it's been really cool to live that out a little bit.
Yeah, is there any players specifically that you've gotten to play with that are like PGA or any famous stars?
I've never played with a PGA Tour player, but in 2 weeks I am going to the WM Phoenix Open, and I'm playing in the. Actually, I'm not playing. I thought I was playing in the PGA Tour Wives outing. So the PGA Tour Wives has a nonprofit. They support our tournament. We support theirs. They come to our tournament every year, and they'll come and do an activity in the markets. I don't know how many. Maybe they do 10 markets throughout the course of the summer, and they're going to the WM Phoenix Open and they're holding their annual golf outing. The Wives golf and the PGA Tour players caddy. So we're supporting it, and as part of it, I thought I was golfing in it, but I'm not. It's only women that golf, so clearly I can't golf in it. So none of my staff can come down. So I think we're going to have a First Tee Phoenix employee golf, a female, and I'm going to caddy for her. Nice. But Lee Hodges is in my group, and then his wife Savannah, who's on the PGA Tour Wives board, is going to golf. So it's going to be really cool. I'll be with them, and then we'll have like a dinner or something afterwards. And I went to the one in Dallas last year, and that's where you get a chance to get to meet these guys and their wives and get to know them on a deeper level, right? And there's some great people that I've met, through this PGA Tour Wives Association, but I haven't had a chance to golf with them yet. And honestly, man, I don't know if I want to. Like, I know that I would get myself in my way around, but like it's intimidating enough just watching them from outside the ropes. Like being inside the ropes and having to deal with that personally, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they've also been at the same point as us, too. I mean, they started where we are. So, I mean, it's tough. But, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine playing with, like, JT or, like, a Lee and, like, knowing that he's watching and everything. That's got to be just unreal.
But I would say at the same time that they probably have a lot of fun with it because they probably know how nervous you are. And I would be. And they would, make light of the situation. I can see Justin Thomas ripping on us, our swing. You've probably seen all the stuff where Max Homo was roasting everybody's swing on Twitter. I don't know if he does that anymore. But like stuff like that is just fun. And that's, the side of golf that show like, Netflix Full Swing, proved, right? And I think season 2 is coming out here in a couple months. Like that's what's so cool is to see the other side of these guys and their support groups to make them and humanize them. And I think that has been really fun to see, because we see it all the time in practice rounds and pro-ams. Like, a lot of these dudes are funny. Harry Higgs stayed with JT next door last year, and I've gotten a chance to know Harry really well. And Harry's one of the funniest dudes around, man. Like, he is somebody that you can just hang with and just have a blast with.
Yeah, I ended up playing basketball with JT, and we were talking to Harry. He's like, "Yeah, dude, just come over, play some basketball." Unfortunately, he fell asleep, but
Really,
yeah,
you fell asleep?
Yeah, Harry did, but we got to play
did,
with JT and one of the guys he had over, Edward. But yeah, these guys are so cool, and they're just like us. So I mean, they're just at that pro level, but yeah, they're all super cool guys.
Yeah, they really are. They really are. Aaron was saying that. When I was talking with the Amex, that he feels like his basketball game's coming around. So he's a big dude. I mean, you post me up.
For sure, yeah. So do you take any like stuff from other tournaments as like ideas or things you might want to change for the 3M or?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, back to the idea sharing with tournament directors. I would say that most of them, we certainly do share our ideas of how we do it. We don't really usually share what that brand invests with us, because that's, something that we want to keep close to the vest. But at the same time, I'm a big believer in what goes around comes around, right? So like, you want to share ideas. And then when you visit those tournaments, my whole phone, my camera roll from the Amex is filled, because I was just taking photos of everything when I go to Phoenix. Although I will tell you that tournament is a little bit different than what ours is. I mean, it's an apples oranges conversation. But there's certain things at Phoenix that I would take photos of to bring back. But 100%. I mean, and that's just the nature of business. I mean, that happens with every industry, right? Back in the NBA, when we would take corporate partners on trips to other arenas, I would spend the first and second quarter walking around the building taking photos of their activations, and it's no different on a golf course. If you see something really cool, you're taking a photo of it and bringing it back to your staff and saying, how do we replicate that? And I would say our staff does an awesome job at that. One of my first challenges was like, hey, let's make sure that we're always on Twitter and Instagram and following every other tournament and seeing what they're doing. And when we see an idea that we like, let's bring it back to our sales meeting and discuss it. Is it doable? Who are the brands we can go after? Because again, it's really in the name of fan experience. If we can keep creating awesome experiences for our fans and the people that are visiting our tournament, why would they not want to come back, right? I think you and I have talked about this before. Our biggest challenge is not other sports teams or schedules during that week. It's about families and people leaving the Twin Cities to go to a cabin or go on vacation, because Minnesota summers are sacred. There's literally 12 weekends out of the year where you feel like you can go do stuff like that because the weather, allows for it. And so are you willing to spend one of those 12 weekends at the 3M Open? And that's what our challenge is: provide opportunities and experiences and activations for them to cross that weekend off as a non-negotiable for traveling, because we're going to be at TPC Twin Cities in Blaine. We're certainly not there yet. We're getting better every year, and we just need to make sure that we're doing the things to do that. And a big piece of that is looking what other tournaments are doing, what's successful for them, trying to replicate it at our tournament.
Yeah, and I think also like if you get advice from other tournaments, and then that only helps grow every tournament, and it makes the PGA look a lot better too. Because if you got every tournament looking good, people are gonna want to show up to that and be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, I think it's there. Like every tournament is so unique, and if you were, I'm forgetting the guy's name, the guy that goes to every tournament and walks with the player every round, he's got the disability. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're him, and you're going every tournament, like you're probably wowed at just how unique and awesome every tournament is, right? And I think that that's what the goal is. So if you did tournament hop, I think that like you'd have a really, really fun summer.
Yeah, and I wanted to go back because you were talking about earlier for the full swing stuff. Were they talking to you a lot, or were they just kind of on their own with their recording and everything? Because they did that Tony Finau episode.
Yeah, they are on their own. I mean, we knew that they were going to be here, and when Tony won and all that, I knew like that was them, But they work with PGA Tour quite a bit on all that, so they'll get the credentials from them and talk to them about it. I don't believe that they were at our tournament last year when Lee won, but. Yeah, I can't wait for that one to come out. I mean, that one. I mean, the cameras were rolling when the whole agreement with the PIF came out,
Yeah.
and I just can't wait to see everybody's reaction when that happened. Like, I mean, just craziness. But again, that just drives interest in our sport and ultimately our tournament. And I will take that. I mean, I've enjoyed that so much that I even started watching the tennis one, Break Point, which is really good. Obviously, they did quarterback. You probably saw the one that they're doing for the NBA with Ant Edwards. And so clearly what they did with, I think F1 started it, right? Drive to Survive. Isn't it Drive to Survive or something like that?
Something like that.
That F1 clearly, opened the door and said this is going to really work, and Full Swing, just made its mark, and now it's with other sports as well.
Yeah, and I think you guys do a really good job of getting new fans in as well, with the Golf for All Day, like you were saying, and also like getting these influencers like Vibes Golf for there, Josh Mayer. But yeah, I think you guys do a great job, and it's only probably going to go up from here. So I'm excited to see what next year has for you guys, and I think it's going to be huge.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you're right. I mean, if not, I might not be sitting here next year talking about 2025. No, I'm kidding. No, I think, I mean, it's our goal every year to just make it bigger and better. We keep saying that, how do we make it bigger and better every year? And how do we bring more influencers, more athletes, more celebrities that want to just be a part of it, number one. But number two, ultimately draw in that crowd that, you've heard me say it a number of times here today, is like, the golf curious fan, the non-core golf fan, because we're always going to get the core golf fan. We're going to have 156 of the best players in the world. I don't care who's on the other tour right now. Look at Nick Dunlap, right?
Yep.
Amateur, wins the Amex, won the U.S. Amateur, won the U.S. Junior Amateur, turned professional. He's number 68 in the official world golf rankings right now. He literally has played one PGA Tour event. There's more like Nick coming up, maybe not as talented as Nick, but just like him. And that whole crop is coming up, right? So when you come to our tournament, like, it's going to be 156 of the best golfers in the world. So you don't have to worry about the quality of golf. It's just who interests you as somebody outside of the world of golf. Do you think they're funny? Do you think they're good looking? Do you like his wife and their family because they're super funny to follow on Instagram, right? Like, all of that comes into play. And we need to do a great job of showcasing that. And if we can bring that to life and talk about it, like, you are going to come out to our tournament. And that's what our goal is every year. And then, again, I think we're accomplishing that. Long way to go. But, we just appreciate your support and covering it and being a part of it and, just helping spread the word, because, I know we've sold you. You love it. Like, we got to get more, kids your age and that new generation of fan that loves the game, loves the sport, to come and support it and have this tournament be here, for the next 50 years, and just provide for the community. We give back around $1 million every year back to charities, about 25 charities, and that is unique in sports. I mean, the PGA Tour just, I think last week, reached almost the $4 billion mark in charitable impact to all of the communities that the tournaments are in over the lifespan of the PGA Tour. That's a lot of money, and so, we support First Team Minnesota and M Health Fairview, University of Minnesota Children's Masonic Hospital. We support, Greater Twin Cities United Way, a number of other great organizations that benefit from our tournament, because corporate partners support us, because fans come and buy tickets, and that doesn't happen without their support. And it's just it's a nice cycle, man. We provide economic impact for the region, we provide money to charitable foundations, we put on a really good tournament and show for fans to have them come do something with their significant other, their families that week, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think too, like, I've started to notice, like, people are like, yeah, this is 3M Open week. Like, they're starting to mark it on their calendars. So I think, again, like I was saying, it only goes up from here, I think. So I'm really excited to see. But that's all I got for you. But I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Again, look forward to what you guys got for next year, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.